providing a good guest experience is really simple, but being simple doesn't mean that it's easy, okay? I think the guest experience starts from the very first time the guest interacts with you. So you have to be careful in all the journey from the very beginning until the end, because you can even provide a great experience and by the last day you make a mistake and you ruin the whole prior hard work.
Mastering the guest experience is a science that requires hoteliers to understand their own purpose to exist, who their guests are, and what do they want, and deliver it consistently, both in all the communication channels as well as in the hotel itself. You need a combo of expertise, communication skills, and data to be able to provide that. On today's chat, I'm talking to Juan Pablo Soler, who, when he was 1 year old, moved into a hotel and never left. He used his experience and expertise from decades inside a hotel to launch his own hospitality tech adventure. In our chat, we discussed the elements that make up the guest experience, how the pandemic changed the guest behaviors, and the common mistakes hoteliers make that can destroy the guest experience. Hi, my name is Mauricio Schiller, and you're listening to the Schulering Hub, Talking Hospitality podcast. Now, let's go to the chat and learn something new with Schulering today.
Hello, Schulering, and welcome back to another episode of the Schulering Hub podcast, where we talk hospitality. Today, a very cool episode to talk about guest experience, something that everyone needs to think about, but not everyone nails it. So for that, I invited Juan Pablo to talk to me. He's from Vico, which is a guest experience platform from Argentina. And I'm very excited to discover a little bit more about Juan Pablo here and learn about how we can improve the guest experience. So Juan Pablo, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you for lending your time to share what you know with our audience, because you are not only tech founder, but what you are is a hotelier by heart, because you grew up in a hotel, and I want to know that story first. Here in our community, humans always come first. So Juan Pablo, tell our audience how you got into hospitality, please.
Okay, sure. To be honest, I was literally born into the hospitality industry. My parents bought a hotel when I was 1 year old, so that's where I've been all my life. When I was a kid, way before phones and all this technology, we used to play around with the guests' sons and around the hotel. We would hide and seek. We would play around. We would make so much noise that people today would complain. But I remember it with such good memories because we had so much fun inside the hotel. And then when I started in my early teens, I started to get involved with the hotel, like doing little end runs and helping in the kitchen to the chef, and even in the laundry room. You know, I would just go there and play around. For me, it was a game. And then after that, I started working even as a waiter, as a bellboy, of course, a front desk, then front desk manager. And finally, I ended up being the hotel manager. And then we have for a brief period of time, we have another hotel. So I would kind of manage both of them. So yeah, I was literally born into the hotel industry. That's what I've done my whole life. That's what I know. I studied business at university, but my focus is always the hospitality industry. And yeah, that's why I end up in this lovely profession that I was born into.
No, that's so lucky. That's so fortunate. Like, my daughter is also born around the hotel environment, and I can, like, you're telling the story, and I can see her doing the same things, jumping around, going to the garden, playing with the garden, and then coming back and just making a mess. People looking, the manager going crazy. It's awesome. And then you basically pivot careers, more or less, without pivoting, right? You were there in the hotel as a hotel manager, and now you found a company. How was that transition and why that happened?
It kind of was by chance. I always was a technology freak. I always enjoyed technology. That's one of the things I like the most. But to be a technology founder, I think that ship had sailed for me before the pandemic. But during the pandemic, we had to, we will talk about that later, but we had to adapt to after, when we reopened the hotels, and we had to adapt. And I started thinking about ways we could do that. We started with a little project because we didn't want people to get crowded, and you had to book in order to go to have breakfast at the restaurant, or even to reduce the interaction between guests and employees. And I decided to partner with a friend, and we started this project that then becomes Vico. Vico, by the way, it stands for Virtual Concierge. That was the concept behind it. And we started developing this project, and it started growing and growing and growing. And at some point I decided, you know what? This could be useful for a lot of hotels. I'm going to make the tool that I want and offer it to my colleagues. And that's how it started growing and growing, and that's where we're now.
Let's just explain, because then people now may be a little bit confused. So 60 seconds, pitch Vico for our audience.
Okay, so Vico, it's a guest experience platform. We digitalize the whole journey from the guests, so the guests can interact digitally with the hotel. It's not that we replace the reception or anything like that. It's just that we make communication more fluent, and we give a choice to guests to interact either personally or digitally with the hotel, especially mostly when they are not there yet. So we take care of the check-in, we do upselling, we do real-time feedback that we talk about that later. All the communication can be channeled through Vico with a specific interface that make it more efficient and seamless. And the idea is also to get data from the guests in order to personalize their experience during their stay. That is something really important nowadays.
So first of all, thank you. And I need to apologize. I was calling Vico because I thought that because of Argentina was Vico. So Vico, I'm so sorry.
No. I myself call it Vico. So forget. We have to define that yet.
It's a process. Juan Pablo, let's get to the main point here. Our goal here is to actually educate our audience and about the guest experience, because as you said, things are changing very, very, very fast. Technologies are around to support that, not to replace. And not everyone understands that how you can use technology to better serve your guests. So let's educate our audience on guest experiences. And I will start with a very basic question. So what are the key elements of a great hotel experience in your opinion?
Okay, well, providing a good guest experience is really simple, but being simple doesn't mean that it's easy. Okay, I think the guest experience starts from the very first time the guest interacts with you. So you have to be careful in all the journey from the very beginning until the end, because you can even provide a great experience, and by the last day you make a mistake and you ruin the whole prior hard work. So to sum it up, I think there are a lot of ingredients that you have to consider, right? First of all, is nowadays guests want to feel special, right? So personalization is really important, and technology is enabling us to provide that kind of personalization, because you can ask preference about the guests before they arrive, and when they do arrive, you can have all these things ready for them. Also, seamless communication, answer quickly, answer clearly, and have all the information they request available, and also communicate clearly, because there's nothing worse than to create an expectation on the guest, and when they arrive to find something different, it will immediately ruin their experience. And of course, also comfort and cleanliness. That's basic. Of course, that's all. I mean, it's super basic about the guest experience. You can also add on top of that technology, things that facilitate their lives during their stay or before their stay, to do the web check-in, or a lot of little things. I don't want to say too much, but it's so many things that make guest experience that you have to take care of. It's not complicated, but there are so many things that you need to nail in order to provide that.
You said many elements there. I just missed one element. How about the sleep? I don't see hotels speaking a lot about the sleep. What, in my opinion, is the main reason why people choose a hotel. What's your opinion about including the quality of the sleep into the guest experience and in the marketing of voicing that for the hotel?
Definitely. It's super important. It's one of the, if you cannot rest well, everything else is not going to matter. If you're sleeping and there is noise or the mattress is too stiff or there is any kind of issue, everything else, it won't matter. So sleep is crucial. Yeah, of course. And even the atmosphere, in the hotel, the decoration, the staff, how they treat the guests. There are so many little things that influence guest experience that you have to take care of. But yeah, sleep, it's a must. It has to be good sleep.
And I think that this is the word that you just said. That it is a must. And I think that because it's a must, we kind of forget that it's part of the experience because it's basically just inside there, and we forget to voice how important the actually sleep is and looking after that a little bit. And you spoke about the technology and the change of how pandemic changed that into your hotels. So how has the pandemic changed that guest experience? What guests are expecting after the pandemic?
I think the pandemic came to change the relationship between the guest and the hotel and what's expected, and also what hotels, hotels were really traditional in so many ways. And after the pandemic, I think it acted as a catalyst in order to improve and provide new ways of doing things. So after the pandemic, for example, all these non-press face-to-face interactions are way more accepted and even expected. Now it's good to have the choice. I want to go to the reception or make a call, or I just want to use technology to get to serve my needs. For example, you were talking about sleep. Now you can provide technology to choose your pillow, for example, and provide a better quality of sleep. You need an extra blanket or something, All of those things with technology, you can provide a picture or even a video, and you can request it with a couple of taps on your phone. For the older guests, it's not going to change that much, and you have to still provide all the traditional ways of doing things. But for younger generations, there are some things that they would like to go to the reception, and others that they would like just to magically appear on their doors or be done when they're back at the room, So I think the pandemic at first was catastrophic for the industry. So many losses, so many hotels closed. But after that, it came to renovate, to improve the hotel experience. And I think it was a wake-up call for all the hoteliers around the world in order to implement new technologies and try new things that now everyone is more open to experience.
It's awesome. And when we come to mistakes that can impact that guest experience, what type of mistakes? Because being a hotelier yourself, you probably not only saw them, probably made them as well. We all make mistakes, right? So what are the common mistakes in the guest experience that hoteliers should be aware and try to avoid?
Well, to be honest, my opinion is that communication. You have to be good at communication when you create, when you falsely advertise something, and the guest is gonna know, and they're going to realize when they're experiencing it, and that's going to be, they're just going to ruin their experience very much. Because if I promise I'm going to do something for you and then I don't, or if I hid some costs or some fee there that you didn't see, the kind of shady or something like that, to me as a guest, for example, that's completely destroyed my trust, that I feel cheated, I feel taken advantage of. So to me, that's really important. Also the services, if I order some room service and it takes an hour and a half to get a Coke or something, that's also the performance of the services is really important. And then, for example, when you cannot sleep well, let's bring it back. There's noise, there's something wrong with the service that was expected and it was like a must, like, as we mentioned, and it's not there, you really have to take care of that. And how staff treats the guests, that's also really, really important.
We're going through mistakes that we can make, and basically mistakes is something that impacting negatively into the guest experience, and the hotelier should try to avoid them. And sometimes we cannot spot that problem during the stay. You end up finding out later in reviews, right? So how can the hotels actually measure the guest satisfaction effectively and go beyond that normal traditional service that you send afterwards and actually learn more about the guests during their stay?
Well, yeah, that's a really important point nowadays. And you always can have staff talks to them, but that's really hard to do because you have to find the right staff to do it. It's not easy to extract their level of satisfaction. And also it's not scalable. So one of the important tools that we developed is the real-time feedback tool. So what we try to do is to encourage the guest to provide feedback on every touching point. For example, in the case we mentioned about room service, after we deliver the room service, we ask one question: how was everything? And it's like a 1 to 5 rating. And the thing is that, the guest that is really dissatisfied will complain, right, immediately. And the one that is kind of dissatisfied will leave a bad review, maybe. But there are so many things that people, it's like, I'm not going to complain about this. And you never find out. And it might be super easy to fix, these little things that happen that you can take care of it super easy and immediately if you just knew at the time. So the idea is that with a real-time feedback tool, you can have a thermometer in real time about your guest satisfaction, and you can take action during their stay. So if there's something wrong during that time, you can assign someone to take care of it and convert a probably bad review online, a negative review, and a guest that is not coming back into a loyal customer. So I think having a tool that because the other thing is that guests, they don't want to be rude to the personnel, and they might not say something like they don't want to complain or something. But when you do it in your phone, kind of anonymously, sorry, you know what I mean?
Anonymously.
Thank you very much. It's so much easier, It's just like I do it, put it, enter it, and that's it. So I think that's a really great way to improve your guest experience, by getting to know these things in real time that you didn't know before.
Sorry to interrupt. If you're enjoying the show and if you are learning something new today, please consider following the show, subscribe to our channel, or leave us a review. It helps us to help more people through the podcast, and it would mean the world to us. Thank you for listening, and we're back on the chat.
Cool. So you can actually include already some guest satisfaction in like questionnaire during their stay with technology, right?
Of course. And you can access that in many ways. For example, you can leave QR codes in public spaces that anyone can scan and review. You can send push notifications or even WhatsApps with specific questions. For example, let's say after check-in 3 hours later, we in this case, in our case, we detect when the PMS is marked as in state. So 3 hours later, we can send a little question: is everything fine? And if the answer is they have a problem, you can automatically create a ticket for someone to take care of it. And also you can, as I mentioned before, relate the survey or the level of satisfaction to a specific action. For example, if the spa, after using the spa, you can send them the specific survey, and then you can start to realize what's their level of satisfaction.
You touch on something very important just before. You said that you can get the staff to ask questions to the guests, but you need to get the right person, right? And it's not only the right person, it's the right trained person, right? So
yeah,
how can hotels train their staff to provide the exceptional customer experience?
Well, that's a really good question, and it's really the hard thing to achieve, like, because you can train, but it has to be kind of natural to the person. So the hiring process is really important, and you have to hire the right people, and that is in the industry for the right reasons. And then, of course, there is a lot of training that you can do that in order to let them know certain tools available and how to treat the guest and how to talk to the guests in order to make them trust them, in order to open and give an honest review, a useful review, because the idea is that you extract useful information to improve your guest experience. So it's not easy to achieve, but once you achieve it, you can really make a difference, I think.
And now you touch another thing that I got curious about, because when it comes to turning reviews, right? Like this, the right person, of course, hiring, the process of hiring is super, super important. Everyone that comes here stress that point of finding hospitality people, right? It seems that we are slowly losing hospitality people around, I don't know if they are disappearing or just changing industries. How is that in Argentina, by the way? How is the staff situation in Argentina?
It's getting harder and harder, especially after the pandemic. The hotel industry was really hit by the pandemic, and there's still staff shortages. So I think that's why technology is coming to help in that process, because with technology, what you can do is you can free your staff from repetitive tasks, from a lot of work, paperwork, that has to be done before, and free their time in order to interact with the guests and to do what they should be doing instead of all the paperwork and repetitive tasks and interact with them. So the situation in Argentina is complicated, and that's why I think technology it's a really useful tool to implement nowadays.
Now, where we're talking about the training, I remember something just clicked to me here. Like, I remember when I was in Australia, I had my boss and I was working outside hospitality, okay? It was a football program for little kids, like Brazilian, so I was a coach. I was the business manager and called Little Kickers. Tim Bateman was my boss there, my mentor, the owner of the franchise. And every time there was a big email from a mom complaining about the situation, and I was like, God, what I do? And he was saying like, dude, this is the best opportunity to turn this negative into a positive, and this person will never leave, right? So when it comes to the hotel industry, how can hotels handle these guest complaints and turn that negative experience into a loyal guest?
Yeah, I think that's an art. I actually was the one mostly handling those kind of situations. The first thing to do is try to tackle that thing the sooner as possible. When you detect that something's wrong, take care of it as soon as possible, and also to listen. The first step is to listen carefully. What's their problem? Why they're having this issue? Because sometimes it's just they're having a bad day. It's not about your fault. So in order to, that's the easiest one to correct. And the other ones is the other way I used to know. If it's my fault, I would immediately assume it. I wouldn't try to hide it. I wouldn't try to blame someone else. It's to assume your fault and say, okay, this is the situation. This is my fault. I'm sorry. I'm going to try to make it up to you. What about this? And most of the time, if you're talking to a reasonable person, they will understand, things happen. And if they realize that you're truly, honestly willing to help and trying to solve this issue, they will put their half and everything's going to be back on track. So I think being honest and assume your fault when it's your fault is the best way to tackle these issues. Yeah.
Great advice. Yeah. And now every time I travel, every hotel I go sends me a pre-stay message and a post-stay message. Sometimes, depending on the hotel I go, I receive an in-stay message, right? However, these messages are not always really good. Okay, they're not very well crafted. from what you've seen from the hotel, from Vico, how can the hotelier craft a very good message for the pre-stay and post-stay that they will actually get their guests as a loyal customer?
Yeah, this is, remember when I said from the first time you interact with the hotel until you leave, I think that has to do with what your brand represents, and the communication is really important, and it has to be consistent through all the stages of the stay. So, it's easy to find a solution for everyone. That's why your brand has to have values, and then you will create those messages after that. I know it sounds kind of like bitty, but it's really important to have consistency and to represent your values when you communicate. And of course, there's people that's gonna relate to that, and there's people that don't. But in this world today, that's how you differentiate. If you do what everyone else is doing, if you do the standard thing, you are going to be eaten by the big change. And so if you are a mid-sized chain or independent hotel, you better find your way of speaking with your guests. So I'm sorry, I don't have an exact answer to that. So you have to, it's not a formula. It's something that you have to discover yourself with your guests and the way you want to interact with them. But the only thing I would be really careful is to be clear and to have consistency through all the stages of the journey.
And what are the best channels to communicate with them? Because today, we are connected with the phone, but what are the best channels? Email? It's a WhatsApp? Is it Instagram? There are so many channels that the hotel can communicate with. Yes, there should be all of them. What's out there, and how can the hotelier navigate to this?
Yeah, I'm thinking that we think that for important information, an email still is the best way to communicate, because it's something that you always have there if you have to find it. But you can also incorporate WhatsApp or even Instagram to that formula, so that you can send both. For more immediate access, you send a WhatsApp, but you always back it up. For example, a reservation confirmation, welcome email with all the access information and everything like that. We still think the email is the best way, because in case of you have to find it, it's always there. When you get a WhatsApp message, you didn't put it in your, it get lost. It get lost. So an email sometimes is easier to find again, and you still have that formal thing about an email that is not the same as a WhatsApp. So we still, an email is the best way, but also add more ways of communicating that is not only the email on top of it.
And before you said that these values the hotel should bear, and I said it sounds like blah blah blah, but actually I wrote today on LinkedIn that a hotel having its values and its purpose, it's not only for the marketing experience, it's not only for the guest experience, but it's even for the staff. Because if you're struggling to hire someone, nowadays the young candidate is looking for a brand that they can actually dress the shirt and tell their friends, I work for this company. And if the hotel doesn't have a story to tell, doesn't have a purpose behind it, they will not connect with the hotel. So the value, it's not only for the communication with the guests, it's for the communication with the staff, is actually to exist for the next 10 years. Hotels should work on their values, their mission, their purpose. So I'm with you there, okay? It's not blah, blah, blah. It's an urgency.
I studied business, right? And when we studied it, it was it sounded non-important. It's something that you do sometime and you leave it there. But it's exactly what you mean. It's not only for marketing, so for the staff. And it's also because it's a guide. It's a guiding rule, right? So every decision you make, you have to filter it with your values. And if it's not aligned, then you should do something else. And it's really important, as you mentioned, employees, because they also have to, when they are working, they have to filter their actions, their way of speaking, what they're going to say or do through those values. So it's really, really important. Yeah, it's crucial, actually.
And when we come to using the technology to actually personalize the guest experience, you said that before. How can hotels actually use technology and use that properly to personalize that guest experience?
Well, to be honest, I think we are going to get more and more personalized every time. The first step is to ask, right? For example, we during the check-in process, we have a step that is interest step, and you can ask a couple of questions about the guest preferences, and from there you can get the basics, right? And after that, you can also collect the data. So booking preferences, what they consume during their stay, what they booked, because we also provide third-party services like tours, restaurants, and things like that. So you can get an idea, then you can collect that data and create profiles and to see how your guest behaves. And the next time they come back, you have more information in order to make their experience more according to what you think they might like. And then you can tweak with it and play around. And so the next time they are going to find that you remember that even, or there is a special date, for example, birthday, or like yourself, that it's your wedding anniversary today. What if you go to the hotel and we know about that, and we provide you with a romantic dinner for complimentary service. I think that's the key. And the idea is to make the guests feel important and recognized and valued. So there are a lot of tools technology can provide in order to achieve that. Yeah.
And now you spoke about extra experiences even outside the hotel, like tours, like restaurants and things like that. How important is for a hotel to actually offer this type of tools that are personalized instead of just having a wall full of flyers and let the guest decide?
Well, that's, in my opinion, is really important because you need to differentiate from the competition and from other destinies. So if you are the standard hotel with these services that kind of like everyone knows, they don't incorporate the local flavor, right? And so to me, incorporating the local culture, the this thing that you cannot explain, but is why you go there, that makes the difference. I think it's really, really important because that's something that you can provide that someone else might not be able to provide. So it's a way of differentiating yourself and providing this added value to the guest experience.
And when it comes to, like you said also about data, and so we collect this data and recognize the guests when they are coming back, right? However, some locations, some hoteliers will say that, well, here in my place, like in Prague, a lot of people say that, like, the tourists come once and then they come back, right? Because it's a one-stop town, right? But can you use this data and these analytics to actually create a type of persona that multiply and you can actually compare to people that are coming from the same region, maybe, and offer the same type of services? Is that something that's possible to achieve?
Yeah, that's definitely possible, and that's even what you aim for, right? If you predict your booking patterns or your preference depending on other previous guests, we will provide you a better experience because of that. Mm-hmm. So definitely that's the goal. That's the main goal. And then on top of that, you add specific personal preferences of that particular guest. But when you have no previous data from that guest, you use previous guests to do that.
Okay, just because I was trying to understand, like, and how can you actually build this data and to be useful? Because I think that hoteliers have a problem with using the data that they collect, because they collect data, they just sometimes don't know how to use it. How would you suggest them to look at this data and create this type of personas?
Well, the first thing to do is try to group, your guests, and you can use different criteria to do that. I would say that age is really important, and type of travel. Those main. I would start there. It's the two main things that I would consider, and then you can go. You can go finer, but the age and the type of travel, it's going to define a lot of their activities and preferences. And then, of course, then you have, for example, where they're coming from, how long they're staying, things like that. that will really influence what they are going to do on your destiny, right? And your place, your city.
Wow, Juan Pablo, that was an awesome masterclass so far. We are getting there because now we are moving to the future of hospitality, okay? And a disclaimer here, I always do this disclaimer now, that the goal of this game here is not to predict the future, not to be cancel like, oh, you said that would happen, it didn't, because that's cancel culture now, yeah? So it's a disclaimer here. This is a game that we play, and the goal of this game is that if someone out there in some time and that knows this chat, that knows this channel, and wants to look for inspiration for their hotel or as a consultant, and they are looking for some inspiration about the guest experience, they find our chat, they go to the last minutes of the interview, the last 10-5 minutes, and they will get insights from people that are thinking about what's coming. Okay, so that's a disclaimer. It's not a prediction. It's really what you think that is gonna happen. Okay, and what you come to guest experiences, when you come to technology, where do you think we're gonna be in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, it's good that you make that disclaimer. I was gonna make it because I think whoever says that they know what's gonna look like, they're lying. Definitely, it can go so many ways.
Unless you're Steve Jobs,
unless you're creating it. But I think that we're going to have a personal concierge 24 hours around us. You can interact like with your phone or even voice in the room. You know, you will be able to speak, and things will happen, right? And we have, of course, more robots, the butler robots around, but it's gonna be. I think it's going to be unrecognizable from what we are used to. So we will have, a personal concierge next to us during the whole stay that will provide everything we need. For example, reservations, to even from hotel services and to the city services. We will have IoT, of course, incorporated. So lighting, temperature, the curtains, everything would be voice activated, something like that. And even when you arrive, the room will be set up according to your preferences, because we will have that data already somehow. Things like that, predicting with perfect accuracy what you need, being proactive. It's like right now we're speaking and my phone rings or whatever, and I'm invited to do something that I thought about doing when I was there, So they're going to be so it's going to be creepy, like right now when we talk about something and tomorrow I'm getting this advertising about this. Well, it's going to be, here's your reservation for whatever I know you think you were going to do. Something like that. They're going to know us better than we do.
Creepy is a good word for that. Like, I'm feeling old, right? Because I'm feeling like that in 10 years I'm going to go to a hotel and I'm going to complain that people are like, they know what I think and I'll be the one grumpy guy. Super, super interesting. Juan Pablo, thank you very much. It was an awesome question, awesome chat with you. How can our audience contact you and get in touch and learn more about Baiko?
Oh, great. So our webpage is baicomanager.com. So they can find us there. They can find us also in LinkedIn, Juan Pablo Soler. So any questions, any help that they want, we are here to help. And I think from there they can contact us. And also my email is juanpablo@baicomanager.com if they want to reach me directly. I think that's enough.
Juan Pablo, thank you so much for your time. Thanks so much for sharing your expertise here. It's awesome to have someone that came from the hotel industry, from a baby there to grow up all the way, and now thinking how to improve the guest experience to other hotels. It's always awesome to see someone coming like, it's not only me, it's about a community as well. So thank you very much for sharing. Thank you very much for educating our audience here, and I hope to talk to you soon in the future.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. It was really nice chat, and congratulations with your podcast. I love it. I always learn something new from it. So keep the good work coming.
Thank you so much. That's what we say. Learn something new with Schulering today. Thank you so much, Juan. I'll talk to you soon. Schulering, thank you for listening. I'll see you next time. Bye.